Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Wednesday, January 15. I hope everyone is well. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching on Facebook. Thank you for watching on Twitter. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Playground. You just heard it. Looking for the ultimate entertainment experience, look no further than Playground. From thrilling gaming and world-class poker to exquisite dining, live music, and electrifying DJs, Playground has it all, delivered with unmatched customer service, conveniently located just minutes from downtown Montreal, right across the Mercier Bridge. Why settle for less when you can have it all at Playground, your top destination for non-stop fun? Also, look behind me in that fridge and look at that fridge. You're going to see Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the chilly winter days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing, Bittt TB. And also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. They are driven to be different. We have a good one for you tonight. I think we had a great one last night. By the way, wasn't that something? Last night, the Canadiens beat Utah. By the time we went on the air, it was 10 minutes to midnight Eastern time. And I think we were on until about 1:07, 1:08 a.m. in the morning with Pierre Maguire. I really thank Pierre for staying up that long and being with me for as long as he did last night. Also very generous with their time are Brian Wilde and Simon the Snake Boisvert. They were so good together last week that, backed by popular demand, here they are. The Wild Man. Happy to be here. The Wild Man and the Snake. And it makes sense, too, because if I ever saw a snake, I would go wild.
Or maybe it takes a wild man to tame a snake. Maybe not.
Or maybe it takes a wild man to tame a snake. As I just realized I'm wearing my dollar store glasses. Let me take those off. I can't find
just no scissors. No scissors.
No scissors. No scissors. Mind you, I Snake and I, we had a great conversation earlier this morning, which I think this could be somewhat of a continuation of that conversation, and we'll probably even go in different areas today. But earlier today on my radio show, Le Forum on BPM Sport, Snake Boisvert joined me, as he usually does every Wednesday morning at around 11 a.m. in our segment, Habs Radio. And I got to tell you, Snake showed up this morning and he answered all questions, because I put it back in his face that back on the 22nd of November on this podcast, Snake Boisvert called Lane Hutson a gadget player. And I said to Snake Boisvert, I said, Snake, we're 1 week away from the 2-month anniversary, which it will be on the 22nd of January. What do you have to say today? And for those who missed it, either because they just missed it or because they don't understand French and only understand English, here's Snake Boisvert in English right now. Snake, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, what do you want me to say, Tony?
Say what you said this morning. Just say it in English.
Oh, you mean the explanation about the gadget player?
No, you don't have to give the explanation about the gadget player. You basically said, I got it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, because basically what I figured, and I went against my usual evaluations of players, which means that in the sense that usually guys like Lane Hutson, I like them because they're highly skilled with the puck. And if they're a defenseman, I don't really mind if their defensive game is not the same as, let's say, getting goalies. But instead of following my instinct, I decided to just focus on the fact that he's a small player and that there were question marks defensively with this guy and physically. And I noticed over the last few months that the number of great plays that he makes outnumber, the fact that sometimes in his own zone, it's, sometimes it's a little bit of an adventure, especially with the big guys. So if he makes 20 great plays and he makes, 7, 8 bad plays, well, he's still a plus player who brings a new dimension to the Habs.
Can I bring you back to 2018?
Yeah.
2018, because you've been in the media for a while now, and you started off with your buddy Mathias Brunet, La Presse newspaper, and when it's time for the NHL draft, you usually do like an online thing on the Presse's website and whatever. And if I recall correctly, 2018, the Montreal Canadiens had the 3rd pick overall in the draft, and they selected Jesperi Kotkaniemi. 4 weeks and even a month before, or the second we knew the Canadiens were going to have the 3rd pick overall, you told everyone in Montreal Canadiens land that the Canadiens should draft Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They drafted Kotkaniemi. And I think it's safe to say that today they definitely would have drafted Hughes over Kotkaniemi. Hughes was drafted 7th by Vancouver. So the reason why I'm taking you back there is because you said I usually like the type of player that Lane Hutson is.
Yeah.
You loved Quinn Hughes in 2018.
Yeah.
He was what? Maybe, he was 5'10". Quinn Hughes is probably, I don't know what, but his draft, Quinn Hughes was probably what on his draft?
5'9".
5'9".
Yeah. And
he was 5'10", and Quinn Hughes was, Lane Hutson was, 155 pounds.
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes was probably, when he got drafted, 170, maybe?
Yeah, max, yeah.
Max. So why did you love Quinn Hughes in 2018, but you didn't like or believe in Lane Hutson in 2022?
Yeah, it's more like belief, yeah. Look, what happened is, and that's why I say I went against my usual instincts. When Trevor Timmons went on your show, and he said that, Quinn Hughes can't defend.
Yeah.
My first reaction was like, who cares? The guy carries the puck, from end to end. He's an offensive machine. And you're going to bother with the fact that sometimes he's responsible for a goal against? And I thought it was an absolutely ridiculous statement. And like I said last week at the show, same 40 years ago with Paul Coffey. I didn't mind. Paul Coffey scored 100 points. What do I care if he doesn't defend? So why with Lane Hutson? I went back to watching games from 21, 22 in his draft year. He was the same Lane Hutson as today. But what I really underestimated is that, look, he's smaller than the guys we mentioned. Okay, he was even smaller than Quinn Hughes. And I think I just played the odds, the probabilities. I just went with the probabilities that usually a guy like this, best case scenario, he becomes Jared Spurgeon, who's probably the smallest player in the NHL, at least on defense. And I said, okay, what are the odds that this guy, as skilled as he is, will be able to survive in the NHL? And look, like I said, I'm not using it as an excuse, but I think a lot of teams felt that way because he was drafted 67, and even the Habs passed on him.
62nd, yeah, 62nd.
And the Habs passed on him twice, taking Machar and Beck. Well, 3 times, but I know what you're
No, but you're right. You're right.
Yes. First pick.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's why I said twice, but I see your point. So
no, but you're right.
So that's it. So I just dropped the ball. I think I liked Victor Arvidsson about 10 years ago, although he was very small. He was not a great skater, but he was so highly skilled with the puck. I said, who cares if he's small? He's highly skilled with the puck. So sometimes I really, really like certain players, and I don't mind. So about, their physical limitations, maybe, just maybe, I didn't like Hutson enough to put him in the same category as Quinn Hughes. And I think if I go back to watching this and, because I really thought about it for months and months and months, what did I miss? I think I was not impressed enough with his straight line skating.
Brian, takes a big man for Snake to say, listen, I got it wrong. I misevaluated the player. And, it's the hardest job in all of hockey
for sure,
to project what a player is going to be at the National Hockey League level. Let's be honest here. Brian,
absolutely.
The whole hockey world is talking about him, though, right now. He's on,
Let me add to the Quinn Hughes, Lane Hutson discussion, because I was really involved at that moment too in Trevor Timmins and what his evaluation was in Quinn Hughes. And he didn't really like Quinn Hughes at all. He didn't think he could defend, and he thought he was going to have a big problem. And in the first year, at least the first half of the first season in Vancouver, Quinn Hughes had a lot of difficulty defensively. He was making a lot of blind passes. The play was moving far too quickly for him. And there were a lot of doubters, even halfway through the first season, that he wouldn't be able to slow down the game in his head. Now, he did, obviously, as a Norris winner. But in that first year, in the first half season, Lane Hutson is actually way ahead of where Quinn Hughes was in the first half of the season. And even Lane Hutson's improvement in the second 20 games of the season is vastly superior to his first 20 games. In the second 20 games, his last 20 games, Lane Hutson is a plus 18 in plus minus. And that's a phenomenal figure. And in 20 games, he has 3 goals and 17 assists. He's a point per game player in the second quarter of the season. A rookie defenseman, small, with no weight. So if Snake got it wrong, join the crowd, because in a certain respect, we all got it wrong. Nobody was sitting there going, draft that guy fourth. You know what I mean? Like, the people that loved him said 32nd, 41st. Nobody ever said 7th.
There you're 10th. Right. There you're right. Because today there's a couple of us who are saying, hey, I called him I'll say it right now. I called him a superstar. Like, I called him a superstar. I thought, and I'll share this story with you. I remember seeing Lane Hutson 2.5 years ago at development camp with the Montreal Canadiens. I remember getting in the car in the parking lot in Brossard, leaving the arena. I called a buddy of mine, and I said to him, I just saw this kid. He's like the smallest kid I've ever seen in my life.
They drafted a guy from Narnia.
I said, this kid's going to be a star. I said to him, this kid's going to be a star. He said, really? And I said, the way he stick handles and the way he sees the game, I said, the kid plays like a number one centerman. His vision and his calm, his poise, his stick handling, it's off the charts. Having said that, I can't say that I saw him in his draft year and I was telling everyone that he was going to be a star, because that would be a lie, right? And you're right to point it out, Brian, that we are a couple of us who the first time we saw him play with the pros said, this kid has something, or this kid's going to be a star. But who in his draft year said teams are all stupid? Lane Hutson should have gone in the top 15 or top 20. Nobody said that.
Not a single person. Not a single person. And I was around Twitter, now X at the time, a lot. And I think I expressed public disappointment that he wasn't taken when Owen Beck was taken. And that would have been the first moment that I said, I think that was a good flyer. He's a small player, but with the U.S. development program, he was setting records, and he looked really good, in his draft year before Boston University. But I didn't sit there and, lament that he wasn't taken at 15 because everybody was an idiot. I think in the second round, halfway through, people were thinking, take a flyer on the kid. Why not? The percentages now at the 45th pick in the NHL draft, the chance that you become a regular is only 5 to 10%. So take a shot. What do you got to lose? It's only 5 to 10% who you pick is going to make the league anyway. right? But that's when it started at 40, 45 overall. So that he went to 62, and then they got him, and it looks like he's going to be a superstar. That's just great fortune. You know, it's a little bit of intelligence and it's a lot of luck. But the Canadians could, you know, they could use it because they didn't have it with Kotkaniemi, you know, and they didn't have it with Galchenyuk. And anytime that they chose 3, it didn't seem to work out. So if they didn't get the luck at 3, then what the hell? Get it at 62. Because when they rewrite this draft in 5 years, he'll be top 5.
Yeah, most probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that on draft night, I was doing the chat on La Presse with Mathias Brunet. Mathias Brunet wanted him with the 26th pick.
Good for him.
I had seen, rankings of players.
Yeah.
I remember one website, I don't know which one, but one, serious website about the draft. And I think I saw him at some point around mid-season in his draft year, maybe 20th. This is the highest that I've seen.
Yeah.
And kudos to the person who had him ranked 20th.
So Brian rattled off some Lane Hutson stats before, and I saw about 6 or 7 tweets that caught my attention. So I made 2 photo collages, and we're going to bring them up right now, one at a time. All right. Let me put on these dollar store glasses again. All right. Mike Kelly, who I got a lot of time for, the NHL Network and Sport Logique. Hutson with 97 pass completions to the slot this season, most of any defenseman in the league. His 32nd assist of the season, 5th among all defensemen. He's 45 games into his career, 43 this year and 2 last year. Most points by a rookie defenseman in NHL history. Larry Murphy in 81, 76 points. Brian Leetch in 89, 71 points. Gary Suter in 86, 68 points. Lane Hutson is on pace in 2025 for 67 points. And that would make him 4th all time if he continues on this pace for points by a rookie defenseman in NHL history.
And in his last 20, Tony, he is a point per game player. And it's really interesting, if I could interrupt for just 1 second. Yeah. Brian Leetch at 71 there. It was Leetch, his record, that Hutson in his freshman year broke 40 years earlier when Leetch played, I think, if I remember right, at Harvard. So there you go.
Points in his first NHL season. Lane Hutson has 35. He's got 3 more points than Charlie McAvoy and Jake Sanderson, had in their first full NHL season. He's currently 8th in points among all NHL defensemen, averaging 22.44 per game. The players ahead of him are Fox, Theodore, Morrissey, Hughes, Werenski, and Makar. Let's bring up, let's keep this photo collage there for a second. And gentlemen, I'm going to ask you your thoughts. Brian, I just looked it up, by the way. Leetch was at Boston College.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, so Brian, you see this chart that's up there. You see these 4 different tweets that are up there. What blows your mind the most?
Probably most points by a rookie defenseman in NHL history, because he's on pace for 67. And if you took his second quarter of the season, he'd be on pace for 82. And I don't think he's going to break Larry Murphy's record, but he could, just like he did at Boston College 40 years earlier, break Brian Leetch's record. I think 71 is within grasp. 22 points a minute, the way the Canadians are playing, the fact they're scoring goals, the fact that he's now the number 1 guy on the power play on the blue line quarterbacking it, that's what sticks out. It's possible. That record is possible.
Snake, Lane Hutson burned the first year of his contract last year. This is year 2 of his contract. Next year is going to be year 3. Yeah. And then, of course, the big question is bridge or long-term. We have seen that very often in the last couple of years now, the style, what's in style right now, the fashion is securing your talent to the long-term deal. And obviously it's something that Gordon and Hughes believe in. Marc Bergevin gave Nick Suzuki the long-term deal, and the Canadiens gave Caulfield the long-term deal, and they gave Gooley the long-term deal, and they gave Slavkovsky the long-term deal. It leads us to believe that they're going to give Lane Hutson the long-term deal as well. If Lane Hutson continues putting up the points that he's putting up, and he picks up over 70 points in his rookie season, what's he going to cost the Canadiens?
You mean like for 8 years?
Yes.
I think his agent is going to go for 9 at least. I don't know if he...
The PK Subban contract. 8 years, $9 million a year.
Subban, it was his third contract at the time.
Correct.
So they bought more free agency years. But I think the agent is going to go for 9 because you look at Makar, you look at Hughes, you look at the salary cap going up. So I think that's what they're going to go for. And I know that they might not want to go over the Suzuki number or the Caulfield number, but then at some point there's no set. There's nothing carved in stone. No player should earn more than Suzuki, basically.
By any chance, do either you gentlemen know who Lane Hutson's agent is?
I do not.
No? Let's bring up that last chart that we brought up. I want to show you guys something. Mike Kelly's post. You see who retweeted it? Sean Coffey. That's his agent. Sean Coffey of Cortex Management Group, who either lives in the Boston or New Hampshire area. I believe he lives in New Hampshire, guys. I've had a chat with him in the past. He's one of Kent Hughes' very best friends, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they worked for the same agency, and
right.
They were covering pretty much the same area, right? New Hampshire, Boston. So they were like this and worked together for, on a day-to-day basis. So look, I don't, what I'm trying to say is I don't expect the negotiation to be difficult. It doesn't mean he won't be shortchanged. I don't think he will. Like, they're going to pay him what he's, they try and get a little bit of a discount on their players. Like the Canadians they're going up to all their players that they're negotiating with, and they're saying, listen, we want this team to be very good for a long time. We believe you deserve more. Can you take a little less, right? They did that with Montembeault. They did that with Caulfield. They probably did that with Caden Gooley, and they're going to try and do that with Lane Hutson as well. Lane Hutson, though, I'm not saying he's going to refuse, but I get the feeling more so than any other player. It's not about the money for him. Like, I get the feeling this is what he'd rather do. There's nothing else he'd rather do, even if it was for free. I mean, he plays with no pressure whatsoever. I've never seen a player so calm, so much poise. Maxime Lapierre talked about his intelligence earlier today of Lane Hutson on TVA Sports. Snake, seeing as you and I, we've been able to break the ice on this whole Lane Hutson issue. Now we've gone very, very deep. I got to tell you this. You ready?
Yeah.
In my lifetime, he's the most intelligent player I've ever seen play for the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
I thought Andrei Markov was one of the most intelligent players I'd ever seen. I think Hudson's another level.
Yeah. I prefer his level is hockey IQ to Markov's. I agree with you, but since I'm a little bit older than you, Tony,
yeah,
I still have to say Guy Lafleur.
You think Guy Lafleur's main attributes were intelligence? And I'm like the president of the Guy Lafleur fan club. God rest his soul. I watch his videos every day and still cry. But, like, Lafleur,
I don't think he was the top guy of his generation. I think that was Jacques Lemaire.
See, I agree with that.
Lemaire
had more hockey IQ than Guy Lafleur.
Yeah. Lemaire was a very cerebral player, but Lafleur knew where to be on the ice. And
scored a couple goals.
Let's not underestimate his intelligence on the ice. Also, the fact that Lafleur, although he was strong, he was not a big guy, and he avoided being hit quite a bit.
You know who had big-time intelligence? Big-time intelligence as well, seeing as we're on the Canadians players that I've seen over the years. Yeah. I think of Bob Gainey and Guy Carbonneau. Sure, two very intelligent hockey players, right?
Yep.
Carbonneau, I do agree with you. Bob Gainey, I found that he was more a crash and banger, although he was good defensively and he was a good checker.
Doug Jarvis, very intelligent.
Doug Jarvis was intelligent. Yeah.
Saku Koivu?
Yeah, I think it was good. Yeah, in that sense.
Intelligent hockey player,
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
Matt Snaslin, intelligent hockey player.
Yeah, he was more skilled than intelligent, I would
Yeah,
say, from
very
what I
skilled,
remember. Because look, any short guy who can survive and score points obviously has to be an intelligent hockey player.
Yeah.
Because you if you can't play Brady Tkachuk style, you got to be smart to avoid getting clobbered on the ice.
Brian?
Yeah, Lane Hutson for me is, I would put him right up there with the most intelligent and best vision, highest IQ that I've seen this century for the Montreal Canadiens. And I've been covering the team since 1995, pretty much at all the games, and he just sees the ice. Like when we're up there in the gondola, we can see the ice and see the plays, and they're right in that mix, same level. And of course, being short, everybody must look so tall, but it doesn't matter. His vision of the ice, sometimes when you're like, okay, there's a guy 85 feet away there and he's open, and you think there's no way that Lane Hutson's going to see him, and he sees him, and you're just amazed. And remember that pass that everybody was making a big deal of that he would never do again, where he saucers it like from his blue line to the next blue line in the training camp?
In training camp, that was unbelievable.
I mean, he just does that all the time. I mean, he just does anything he wants. Look at last night, the Kirby Doc goal. He's got 4 guys. He watches. He's slowing the game down. He sees all the guys coming. They go this way. They go that way. They come in. They come out. He waits and waits and waits. He knows exactly what he's doing, even though the guy he passed to was in the womb still, and then he finds him, and then Kirby Doc scores a beautiful goal. Like, his vision is, and that's why I would say he will become the highest paid Montreal Canadian at the end of this season.
Just one note, Tony, about the graphic, the chart that you showed.
Yeah,
about the most points in history. Let's not forget that in the 80s. There was more scoring than today. So if you sort of do a prorated, if you prorate his numbers, and I know it's kind of a moot point because you live in the decade that you live. I mean, but if you prorate it, he would, if he gets valid. 7 points, I think he's above Larry Murphy. I think
it's very valid.
The equivalent would probably be 82, 83, 85. Because there was lots of scoring back in the day. Is Larry Murphy and Murphy, Leach, and Housley, 3 of my favorite defensemen of all time, although the 3 of them were said to not be good defensively. Murphy, I remember, was playing with the famous Triple Crown line with Marcel Dion, Charlie Simmer, and Dave Taylor.
Correct.
So we got a lot of opportunities. And Hudson, with all due respects to Suzuki and Caulfield and Slavkovsky and Liney, I mean, they're not the top line in the NHL the way the Kings' top line was.
Well said. We're going to get to some more stats, but not before I talk to you about Souvlaki Authentique, a family-operated Greek restaurant, 7 locations, Lachine, Boisbriand, Pierrefonds, etc., just to name a few. They use fresh Quebec chicken and fresh Quebec pork. I was there actually on Monday for lunch. I was there on Monday for lunch with my buddy Danny. Both hand-cut, marinated in-house. Their gyro is hand-stacked in-house, never frozen, no MSG in any of the recipes. Greek potatoes, not your Yaya's Greek potatoes. They have a unique lemon sauce. So we'll give them a shout-out as well. Also want to thank Betway. If you want to go all the way with Betway, you want to get in on the action, a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available with new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years of age and over. Please play responsibly. Kirby
Tony?
Yes.
Just at Betway for a second there. What's the over-under in most hockey games right now for goals? 5.5, 6.5?
I would say 6.5 is the
6.5. And I mentioned that for this reason, because Snake just made a good point about all of those players, except for Lane Hutson, were from the 1980s. Back in the day, and I don't do it now, but back in the day, I used to sports bet, and the over-under in pretty much every game was a 10.5 or an 11.5. Mm-hmm. So what Lane Hutson is doing when the over-under is set at 11.5 and now is 6.5 for total goals in a game is miraculous. He would have had 100 points in that era.
I think I checked a few years ago, 1984, 85, when the Oilers were scoring tons of goals.
I was there for that.
I think they were scoring 33% more goals back in the day than today.
Yeah.
So 33% of 67 is 22. 67 plus 22 is 89. I mean,
Wow.
for what it's worth. I mean,
Yeah. I like it. Good math. Good math. I like a guy with good math. It's good stuff.
I love math.
Me too. Snake and I, a bond is forming.
I have to tell you something. Brian talked about sports betting. Back in the day, I put a few bucks on a game between, if memory serves me well, I think it was the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Calgary Flames. And I think the over-under was 8.5 or maybe even 9. And I went over. And I was in the hole a little bit, and this was one of those double or nothing kind of bets, right? To either get me back down to zero or put me in a much bigger hole, right?
Yeah.
And so I went, I'm watching the game. And sometimes, when you're watching those games that you have some action on, it drives you crazy because they're missing open nets and they're hitting goalposts. And now you're losing your sanity, right? When you got money on the over. And so I remember going to bed, and I think a total of 3 goals were scored midway through the game. Mm-hmm. And I think the over-under was like 9 or 9.5. And I'm like, if 3 goals are scored midway through the game and they play another midway through the game, there's going to be another 3 goals. And I'm falling short and I'm losing my bet, right? I went to bed and I was just so distraught that night. I was like, oh man, I put myself in a pretty big hole here. I'm saying to myself, do you remember this, guys, that there was a phone number that we would call?
Yes. You call it a million times, right?
Because that's sports line, wasn't it?
You call it every 4 seconds.
The Montreal Gazette had a sports line that we would call, and the sports line would give you the score of the game.
Yeah.
So, I picked up the phone the next morning, and because I went to bed midway through the game distraught, and I picked up the phone the next morning, and I called the Gazette sports line. Brian, that game that you talked about that had like 3 goals midway through finished 8-6 for Pittsburgh.
8-6.
And I think like it's something crazy here. Like I could be wrong. I think Mario had all 8 points.
Yeah.
I think Mario had 8 points in the game.
That's why the over was a pretty good choice.
It was. Yeah. Well, back then when Mario was Mario, if you're going to bet on the Penguins games, you're not betting under.
No.
Right? You're not betting under.
Wide open hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I think anybody that's younger listening to us right now is like, you had to call a phone number for a score?
Yes, we did. And by the
we
way,
were so happy about it because we didn't have to wait for
because before that there was no phone number to call. We thought it was an amazing invention.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. Back then we didn't have officepools.com that would calculate all of our points for us in our pool. We would pick up the Gazette newspaper every day, and we'd pick up a piece of paper and a pencil, and we'd go through every single one of our picks and put a 1 if they picked up a point, and then do the tally and add it all up. Yeah, times have changed.
You didn't learn anything until the next morning.
Yeah, I have more Lane.
When your newspaper arrived.
You're right. I have more Lane Hutson stats. Let's get to them. Okay. Lane Hutson, 43 games played this season, became the second fastest rookie in Montreal Canadiens history to record 30 assists in a season, trailing only fellow defenseman Chris Chelios, 38 games played in 84-85. So Chelios did it in 5 less games. Eric Engels, Lane Hutson's version of figuring out the National Hockey League in the first 23 games of his career, 0 goals, 13 assists, minus 15 from games 24 to 45, 3 goals, 21 assists, plus 9. Anyone care to guess what he's going to do from games 46 to 84? There's a good one. And Canadians _Muse, Lane Hutson has 23 points in his last 22 games. Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, let's not forget that Chelios was playing in the 80s, and he was also older. He was 22 years old because he had gone to college and the Olympics in 84, and then he joined the Habs for the end of the 1983-84 season.
Yeah.
And then he was officially a rookie in 1980.
84-85, and the year after the Canadiens won the Cup. So in 84-85, he was playing for a pretty good team.
Yeah.
He was playing for a pretty good team.
Yeah, Jacques Lemaire was coaching, and they reached the I think they were eliminated by the Nordiques in 7 games.
Here's was that the Peter Stastny in overtime?
It was Peter Stastny in overtime. Yeah.
Kirby Doc on Lane Hutson's work ethic. Let's hear from him.
Much surprises us anymore. I mean, we see the work and the effort he puts in practice and away from the rink, and I mean, it's no mistake he's as good as he is, and the way he prepares for games and practices, and he wants to dominate each and every night. And you definitely need guys like that to be a difference maker for us, and he's been that for the last couple months.
He wants to dominate every single night. I think I said yesterday that in the 43 games that he's played this season, I think he's been the Canadiens' best player in about close to 30 of them. Like it's really, really something. Hey, the eye test earlier today, Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy had on, and he's been on several occasions, the great William Scotty Bowman. They talked about Lane Hutson. Here's Mr. Bowman.
What do you think's been the difference? Let's say the cutoff date is maybe American Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. So the difference between Lane before American Thanksgiving and now, what have you seen different in his game, in his adapting to the game that has made him be able to do what he's doing right now?
Well, he's certainly been a surprise, although Pierre had known him before he even got to the NHL. And I think the fact is that they gave him a shot, and they played him a lot. He's got confidence, and now I haven't seen all the games like Pierre. Is he on the power play now, Pierre?
First power play took Matheson's spot. Yeah,
they moved him after. I mean, he proved himself. So, yeah. But I'm surprised how they use him against anybody. Yeah, he's got all the tools. I don't know how he could be so good so young, but I know people in Montreal that I also talk to quite a bit. One, Pierre knows, because I was supposed to meet him today, but he had to do something else. Serge Savard doesn't say much about Canadians now, but he mentioned his name to me. He said, this guy is really something.
Wow.
So, I mean, he watches the game. I don't think he goes to the games all the time, but he said he's got everything. He said he's got confidence. He's got, he can make plays that a lot of players, and it's showing up in a production now. So, I mean, he's going to be, I mean, whether they like it or not, the observers are going to have to put him in the mix for certainly you got the rookie, and also you talk about the Norris now.
For sure. I agree.
The other two defensemen in the league that, to me, that play and run games, Makar, we know, and Hughes in Vancouver. I mean, they're so special, and they play so consistently. When they don't play, when they're not on the ice, the game changes. Same as now with young Hutson.
Scotty Bowman put Lane Hutson in the same category as Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. He says they change the game, and when they're not on the ice, the game, their team dips. But they impact the game so much when they're on the ice, and when they're not on the ice, obviously the game is a much different game. PK Subban today in the Journal de Montréal said Lane Hutson will win the Norris Trophy. I've said that before too, but I'm nobody. PK Subban, somebody. I'm nobody. Brian, one player can win the Norris, and it depends on obviously so many things, right? You got to stay healthy, and you got to play a lot of games. And if you have team success, great. Picking up a lot of points. I think Quinn Hughes picked up 92 or 94 last year, whatever it was, and he won the Norris. If you had to put $1 on Betway, Lane Hutson will win a Norris in his career. Yes or no, Willie?
Yes, definitely. I mean, he's 20 years old doing what he's doing. He's already in the conversation with Scotty Bowman for the best defenders in the National Hockey League. Like, if you're 20 and already in the conversation with Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar as running a game, then why not? I mean, he's improved from game 20 to 40. He's already comfortable. And if
Brian,
the team improves and scores goals, there's no reason to believe he can't win.
I'm going to put you on the spot, okay? And I'm going to ask you something that is never going to happen, but I'm going to ask you anyway, and you're going to find out why I'm asking you this in a second.
Okay.
If Buffalo would pick up the phone right now
Yes.
and they call you and they say, we really like that Hutson kid, and we'd be willing to trade Rasmus Dahlin one-on-one for Lane Hutson.
Well, of course not. Why would I do that? One is running games right now, playing 22 minutes, and the other is not. I would not make that trade. Not even close. I would hang up the phone, throw in Dylan Cousins and Tage Thompson, and I might consider it.
Oh, well, yeah. Whoa.
I'm serious. Like, who are the untouchables? I mean, it's a very funny word, untouchable, right? Because it can mean different things to different people. But if I would say that the way I quantify untouchable is you can't replace him in any other way with another guy. So my untouchables would be Lane Hutson, number one, and Cam Fowler would be the other one. And those are the only two untouchables in the organization. Because those are the only two that you can't replace in another capacity with another player.
You mean Jacob Fowler.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me, Jacob Fowler. Yes, of course.
And Demidov.
Demidov, yeah. Those are the ones, because you have to say somebody is an untouchable, you have to say that they are the prospects or young people in an organization that are the very best in their class at what they do. Demidov has been called by ESPN the best prospect not playing in the National Hockey League today.
So it's
the best young defenseman in the National Hockey League today, young,
so
is the 20-year-old Lane Hutson.
Yeah, I brought this up on BPM
And Fowler
Sports.
Is the best prospect.
I brought it up on BPM Sports earlier today, and I said, you know what? I wouldn't make that trade if I was the Canadians. Let's just say if it ever was proposed. And I also added because Rasmus Dahlin is 4 years older. He's already making $11 million per season. And Lane Hutson has more upside. He's got more potential. And we know what Hutson is like in Montreal. He's doing it. He's proving it. He's showing us. His teammates love him. His coach loves him. The fans love him. Everyone loves him. He's a fit. He's arrived. Here's
the question.
So Snake disagreed, and that's okay, by the way, because Rasmus Dahlin went first overall in the draft, so I get that. But Snake disagreed. He would make that trade if he was the Canadians any day, all day, any day.
Here's a question then for both of you. Who are the top defensemen in the National Hockey League going forward? Top five.
In order or just?
No, just top five. Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, number 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
And they just got compared by Scotty Bowman. He did in the same realm.
In 2018, I remember it was the year that Dahlin and Hughes were drafted. And I remember saying at the time, the big four for the next 10 years is going to be Makar, Hughes, Dahlin, and Heiskanen from Dallas.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much become this overall look. So I would stick with those four guys because they're still pretty young. And I would add Lane Hutson. So that's the top five.
So yeah, look, Hedman and Yossi obviously are getting older. I think Moritz Seider is a player that I think could be in that discussion. I think,
but don't forget Matthew Schaefer, Tony. But he's only 17.
Adam Fox. I think Evan Bouchard could be in that discussion for the next couple of years.
No Bouchard.
Well, he puts up points. He's putting up points playing with Connor McDavid.
But he's a defensive liability. It's a joke.
Yeah, I think Devin Taves has some potential to do something. Rasmus Dahlin is a name that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Noah Dobson, possibly.
Noah Dobson, maybe Noah Dobson, number 6.
Yeah. But look, to answer Brian's question, I know that Brian's going there. Brian, for me, Lane Hutson is a top 5 sure bet in that discussion any day, all day. all day.
Yeah, and when I'm saying top five, I'm not talking about top five in terms of headmen. I mean, we're not talking about the past here. We're talking about who would you want? Who are your top five that you want to build the team around right now?
Yeah, for the next 7-8 years, let's say.
Exactly. And it'd be, for me, I love Heiskanen too. He might be pretty close to Makar, my favorite. And I put Heiskanen higher than Hughes because Heiskanen is so dominant defensively. And when he gets on the puck, and I love Scotty's term, he runs the game. I love that term, runs the game. I'm going to use it in Call of the Wild, first chance I get. And then I put Hutson in that conversation.
Okay.
And I got 4, and I'm not sure who my 5th guy is.
So Snake, tell us why, if that deal was ever proposed, why the Canadians should do it. Tell us why.
Honestly, it's the overall game. And Rasmus Dahlin, if you noticed, the Buffalo Sabres were pretty horrible when he was not playing. Remember that game at the Bell Center? He was terrible.
Yeah.
And he wasn't playing. And I was at that game. And I thought it was a disaster. Owen Power was a disaster, and the whole team was. He was, yeah.
Yeah.
And Rasmus then came back, and now the Sabres in the last 10 games, I think they're 5-4-1 with a pretty, pretty weak team overall. And it coincided with Dahlin's return.
By the way, do you guys think that Jake Sanderson could be in that discussion?
No.
Okay.
Not good.
I did when he was at North Dakota, but he has not developed like I thought he would. I watched him in North Dakota where he dominated games. He would carry a game by himself, but he has not done it at a pro level.
But his ceiling was more like Heiskanen because Jeff, it's his father, Jake Sanderson.
Mm-hmm. I just did the same thing.
Yeah,
I did a Cam and a Jacob.
Jake Sanderson was more. I don't think he was ever seen as a big point producer. So he was more like in the Heiskanen mold, but no, Dahlin. Dahlin. I prefer Makar, Hughes, and Heiskanen. Honestly,
me too.
But I have to put Dahlin at number 4.
We can add Adam Fox. By the way, who was like 26 years old. Adam Fox has
another in the Dobson tier. Let's say
he'll turn 27 next month, so he's got a good 4 or 5 years ahead of him for sure. I would think.
I'll say one thing though, that the ones who run the game on both sides of the ice would always be ahead of Hutson. So Heiskanen would always be ahead of Hutson because he runs the game, whatever the zone the game is in. I think Hutson is doing extremely well defensively, and I'm really surprised at how well he's handling things physically, how little he ever gets hit, how seldomly he ever finds himself in physical battles that he loses. He's just so crafty. He works his way around those battles defensively, but he will never be Heiskanen with that domination, or Makar with the domination, or Hedman in the past in the defensive zone. But he is as good as, if not better than, those guys in the offensive zone to make up for that. But still, overall, you have to put the big 3 ahead of him. But that we're having this conversation with a kid that's played 45 pro games is a phenomenal thing. And the Montreal Canadiens have to be like, did you see Kent Hughes last night after one of the goals? When he's got this look on his face, like when Hutson was just a magician on the pass to Doc, I think it was, and he's got this. Yes, that's our fella.
It's funny.
Good.
It's funny.
This is good.
The camera, those images that we saw last night.
This is good.
It really made you feel good about the Canadians because Kent Hughes was like, man,
this is good.
This kid is really good. Like he's like. He was feeling really comfortable what he has at his disposition. You can tell. And you know what, guys? We have to say this too. And Lane Hutson deserves all the credit in the world. And by the way, Marty St. Louis and Stefan Robida deserve a lot of credit too, because when Scotty Bowman says the kid has confidence and they're making him play, let's be honest, guys. They accepted a lot of mistakes. There were a couple of games where he was -4 and he was a disaster. And they kept on putting him out there, and they kept on giving him the pat in the back, and never did they get in his face to start doing this like some coaches of the past probably would have done and said, and I'm sure they don't bring him in the room and they don't grill him and grind them and this and that. They just let him be because they realize that at the end of the day, the pluses will far outweigh the minuses. And I think he's lucky to have a coach like Marty St. Louis. I think he's lucky to have a defense coach like Stefan Robida.
They all are.
But I also think he's lucky to play with a guy like Mike Matheson, because when Cole Caulfield scored that goal yesterday, Pierre Maguire brought it up. Nick Suzuki wins the faceoff draw clean over Barrett Hayton, and the puck goes to Mike Matheson, who freezes everybody and then passes it to Lane Hutson. Lane Hutson has some time and some space to advance because Matheson froze a couple of players. And I think it's no coincidence that Hudson's best hockey is playing with Matheson. So I think Matheson deserves a lot of credit too. Here's Marty St. Louis. No, pardon me. Here's Mike Matheson on why he believes the pairing with him and Lane Hutson en français works so well.
Je pense qu'on fait une bonne job de garder les choses simples dans notre zone puis dans la zone neutre puis en savant que si on fait ça, on va être dans notre zone moins puis on va être dans leur zone plus où nos skills pourront nous aider encore plus.
We're just trying to keep it simple, he says, in the defensive zone and the neutral zone, knowing that if we keep it simple in the defensive zone and the neutral zone, we're going to end up being in the offensive zone. And in the offensive zone, we'll let our talent and our creativity take over. And that's why it's working out. Guys, tomorrow night, big one. Habs in Dallas. The Canadians are once again a couple of points out of a wild card spot. They are in the mix where they want to be. They'll play Dallas for the second time in about 5 days because they lost to them 2-1 in a shootout on Saturday night in Montreal. A couple of questions for you. Number one, Brian, Monty or Dobesh tomorrow night in Dallas?
Well, I think Monty. I mean, he'll get 2 days rest. They'll be fine with that. So I'm going to guess Monty.
Snake?
Yeah, Monty, and because there's going to be back-to-back home games this weekend, so Dobesh is going to get a start.
Pierre Maguire says he would go with Dobesh because he thinks that Dallas will have the book on Monty after having studied him on Saturday, which is an interesting observation because Monty was so good on Saturday that you can make the argument to start Monty because he can play well versus Dallas. Last question. Pezzetta as your 12th or Struble as your 7th D?
I'll start there. I'd say Struble is the 7th D just in case there's an injury and he might not play much because he's already shown he has no trust in Pezzetta.
Snake?
So basically, you're talking about an 11-7.
An 11-7.
Yeah, I agree with Brian. 11-7. Struble.
Which, by the way, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've gone 11-7 at all this season. Have they? Even one game? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I can't think of one. That's a hard question for me, though.
I could be wrong.
Last year, I remember seeing it, but not this year.
Listen, I could be wrong. I don't remember what I ate 2 days ago, but I also eat 8 times a day. All right? Guys, thanks for doing this tonight. Much thanks. Enjoy the hockey game tomorrow night.
It was fun.
Will do.
There you have it. Brian Wilde from Global TV Montreal and Simon, the Snake Boisvert of the podcast Processus that he does along with Mathias Brunet. You can follow us on all our social media channels and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's, we really appreciate it. Thanks so much if you can do that. Special thanks to all of our sponsors, Energy Transportation Group, Playground, Bittt Tibi, Zouflaki Authentique, and Betway. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. Special thanks to Shane Gaumont and Master Control. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place, right after the Canadians and the Dallas Stars. The game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern time, give or take at around 10:45 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back on following the hockey game, immediately following the hockey game with Pierre Maguire for your Habs post-game Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. They call him the Snake. I call him Userpent. Special thanks to Snake and Brian Wilde. And special thanks to all of you. Have a great night, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. LaBita.tb. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.